Well, good afternoon. Currency recap time. It's Thursday. Joe with you here on the 25th of September. You know how this works, so let's just jump into it and see what we got. I'm going to take a look at the meaningful news of the day, and let's take a look at the current market analysis, which is a little bearish, but I do have some trades, so we will share them.
All trades and analysis in this video are intended for professional traders only. This content does not constitute financial advice and is for educational purposes. This video is being released after a short delay due to Compliance Department review. Maverick members receive this content immediately as part of their daily trading resources. If you're ready to level up, consider joining Maverick Currencies. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits. You bring the skill, we provide the backing. Let's get into today's market recap and see how the pros are trading the currency markets.
All right, let's just move straight into the market analysis. News of the day. Okay, so the U.S. markets closed lower for a third straight session. It did come off of some interesting things. The U.S. dollar has surged over the last couple of days, mostly based on some dovish comments out of Powell saying that, look, the economy might be a little bit stronger than he thinks. I don't think I need to be as aggressive, but we're going to be aware of it. Doesn't say he wasn't going to, but just cautious. And then we did get some pretty strong economic numbers today, but they have been very, very volatile over the last couple of months, which makes things very difficult to read. All right, so let's see what happened. So the yen basically flat. The dollar had the big surge today, and that was because of the anticipation of it staying strong. Hey, if you're going to not cut interest rates, the dollar should stay strong. And it did. It surged up. But look at everything else. Pretty much flat. The CAD had a little bit of a bounce. That's a good chart. I'll show it to you here. And then the Aussie slid, and then the Kiwi, which has been super weak. It has really, really struggled over the last little bit, continued to slide. So when I take a look at this slide, I've got the S&P, crypto, gold, and oil. I take a look at the S&P, slightly down, meaning, okay, if it's a risk-off move, then crypto would fall, and it did, 3.95%. Crypto is a lot more volatile, and I see a little bit of strength in gold. Gold has been super strong as of late. I'd expect a correction is coming soon, but it managed to finish slightly higher, and oil as well, moving higher. So it looks like a risk-off day. So here's crypto and the percentages that they lost overall. It's very difficult to gauge just off percentage because they're so volatile, but we'll take a look at their charts to make things a little easier. Here's our outlook. We're going to state that +3. Now, folks, understand that +3 is month to month. It's a little bit longer term. So if I just show you the chart itself, I mean, it's in a beautiful place. We set, a high a couple of weeks ago here and leaked into a new high and then pulled back. And it's still in its pullback phase. Very promising reversal signal. Doesn't mean that it's going to. So we'll have to see where this kind of lands. We do have a little bit more room than you think. I pointed this out to our equity traders. There's a lot of flexibility here in the longer term chart, the 6,500. It's a big point when it comes to previous resistance, or I should say support, because it was resistance. However, I mean, folks, this could come all the way back down to some of these levels, and we could call it a consolidation or corrective action in the longer term. So there's a lot of flexibility, a lot of movement that this can give us without the panic reaction of that's the end of the world. So overall, folks, we're just going to treat this as a pullback, 3 days. It could go a couple more. We'll see where it's at, but that's where we sit when it comes to the S&P. Let's move over to our economic calendar. And this kind of jibes with some of the things that Powell was talking about, saying, hey, we might be a little bit stronger than expected. Now, these numbers are difficult to read. I'm not going to get too deep into these things. So here's new home sales number. It came out today, 20% higher than expected. It's a 3-year high. Okay, that's for August. I understand that there's push and pull. There's a lot of reaction and worries about what's been going on. Here is the third revision of the GDP Q over Q. That's for basically April through June. Way higher than expected. Unemployment claims is totally fine. 233 expected. It's lower than that. I've seen this number go higher and lower almost every other time. The durable goods orders, this one's tough. It's hard. Expected to get a little bit better. Well, this was expected to drop the month over month, and it didn't. And then this was expected to expand, and it expanded quite a bit. So these numbers aren't missing a little. They're missing a lot. And so it becomes difficult to read. And the existing home sales actually made the most sense. It was just slightly higher. So I think you're going to see a little bit more on the PCE index. Now, these could be thrown out, and I'm sure maybe next month they'll all be red and they'll be different. But it's difficult to gauge when it comes to trading the dollar. The PCE, which is the personal consumption expenditures, whether employment is up or down, whether we're adding jobs or not adding jobs, it's what the consumer is doing with the money. Now, past that, folks, these numbers are what they are. So what I have found, it is best just to kind of set it aside. I found that if whatever it is that's causing the most volatility, you kind of want to stay away from because you're not going to get the consistency out of it. So let's just take a look at the currency analysis and take a look at what volatility has done today. So starting with the yen here, it's just showing a little bit of weakness. Once again, it didn't really do much. It just kind of bled a little bit lower. It's been in this pattern for a little while, a couple of days, and it just seems like it's holding on. It looked like it was starting to climb here for a minute. I was looking forward to seeing if this could actually break above it, but you can see that the relative strength never really got too far above that 50, and now it's floating lower. I'm going to give it a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. I just gave it a -1, and the whole reason being is because it's still technically at this level. It's breaking it, but it's this level that's going to make me really just say, okay, that's a -2, and it's sliding. But it seems to be a little bit just bleeding around. It's not very reactionary as what we've seen in the dollar. So I'm just going to leave it at a -1 for now. Taking a look at the dollar, you guys can see that it's just push and pull. This is something that was breaking support levels, moving lower, retesting it, breaking lower, bad. And then look at this RSI. Look at the change in just what people thought of it. Out of favor. All of a sudden, it's the greatest thing in the world. So it's reactionary. It's volatile. It's hard to gauge. It's just surging. So what's tough about these when it comes to trading, folks, is it becomes almost too volatile to be consistent. Great to see, awesome to follow, but it's something I'm not going to use. Here's the franc. Very consistent. You can see over a while, I'm going to shrink this down when it comes to our velocity score, is this move that it's had on this RSI was very high, outperforming, but look how it stayed above the 50. I mean, it might look like it's showing a trend of slowing or becoming weaker, but moving on the price action, I have something to actually gauge against. So this becomes something consistent. I used to do this with the pound a while ago. The pound got a little bit weaker, but it looks like the franc is showing a little bit more consistency. I've got a nice little ascending triangle pattern going here, right? It just needs to stay at this level or move higher if I compare it with something a little weaker. So I like where it's at. I like how it can stabilize itself here. Not too high, not too low. So the franc is one of my currencies. Now, the franc is only a +1. It's not a +3. It's just a +1. I think I'm going to throw aside the +3 -3s because there's just too much going on out there. Let's move to the euro. Now, the euro is a little bit weak. I gave it a 0, but I could have given it a -1. I don't like where it's moving from here. I don't like the slope of this RSI. However, that doesn't mean it can't just turn. So I'm going to give it its last-ditch effort at this support level. I'm okay if it goes a little bit lower, but if it can climb back up, I'll keep it at the 0 that I have it at now. But right now, it's a little bit at too much of a crossroads for me to use. Taking a look at the pound, you'll see the pound is just showing some weakness. If you guys want to pair that with something stronger, that's fine. It did break a support level that I thought was pretty big a few days back. It came back above it, but it doesn't seem like it wants to stay there. So this level here is showing me that it might be kind of a sideways to down. I gave it a -2 because it really hasn't fallen apart, but it could be close to a -3, but it's definitely showing weakness. Let's go to the CAD. The CAD showed some pretty good strength. The problem is it's kind of a wide pattern for me to where I really couldn't give it something where I could trade. So this is a very deep bull pullback, right? You would look at, but I can see some consolidation that it had here that it struggled at, it did kind of set a slightly higher low. So it's this point that I'm worried about. The RSI is showing that there was enough of a push, but is it enough to get back up to this level, or is it just going to meander? So I decided that, look, I just think it's going to meander. I gave it a +1 because it did get above this resistance here, but it's more of a sideways trade right now. Let's go to the Aussie, do our risk ons. The Aussie had a pretty good bounce, and it's just kind of faltering down. The RSI is slipping. There's really not much I want to do with it. I don't want to punish it, but it's volatile. I do like how it did come out of this, but we've seen a few of them do that. It's like, okay, you did that, but what you're showing me right now really doesn't give me much. However, if we could get a bounce here and start to move higher, I could start to move this up the ranks, +1, +2, so on and so forth. This is promising. I'd like to see this start to slide or stay at that 50 for the Aussie to show strength. Now the Kiwi, on the other hand, is a lot more sad, and this thing has just been slipping and sliding. It's just set base and drop, base and drop, dropping, basing, dropping, and it's very much so economic. Look at this RSI, not even an attempt to get back. Definitely something going on with this. So this would be kind of an easy pickings. The only thing I'm worried about is any sort of volatile bounce if it ever has it. So let's move over to the cryptos here, and you can see they're all really bad. This is Bitcoin, broke down, roll over. Look at this. It never really hit the 50, not really participating. 50 down, couldn't get there, hit the 50 RSI down. Anytime there was a chance to sell it, it's happened. Bitcoin is definitely a -3. Bitcoin Cash, I could give a -3 or a -2 to. Look at the RSI. There's just no momentum. There's just no interest. It's just bleeding. So it's not falling apart as aggressive as the others. So I gave it a -2, but you can give it a -3. That's fine. Look at Ethereum. Hasn't been above 50 since this area, and it's just bleeding lower, breaking lower. Here's Litecoin doing the exact same thing. So a pretty good scalp coming out of cryptocurrencies. I don't know if it's profit taking or something, but it's just kind of bleeding lower. So this is where I sit on the velocity score, and it's kind of funny because there's been some pretty good moves over the last couple of days. US dollar just jumping all the way to +3. I do like to see the franc hanging in there. I think the franc is one of my favorite currencies. In fact, I got a couple trades with it. The Kiwi continues to stay low. The Aussie is struggling, but it hasn't really broke down. The pound is dropping. The euro is kind of slightly lower, and there's just not a lot of movement outside of the dollar and the Kiwi when it comes to extremes. However, crypto is really getting smashed. Take a look at some gold charts and oil charts as well, as they are moving. So let's just take a look at a couple of possible trades, folks. And to tell you the truth, I'm going in the median, and I'm going to pair a couple of things with the franc. So the first one I liked was the franc yen, seeing that if the yen can just kind of stay sideways and the franc can maybe show a little bit of strength. I liked it as it starts to break out. Now, I think the confirmation on this is going to be hard. I don't think it's going to be like it was back in this area. Understand, once these do break, I mean, they can retrace. So you want to be a little bit longer term, but you have seen that it can do this. So at this point, I might be a little bit reluctant. You need to be patient with this. I would place something a little bit more aggressive to try to catch candles like this, and then maybe just hit your target accordingly. You could do a Fibbo on this, so on and so forth. What I like about this is once it gets down to this 50 area, it seems to climb. Not as aggressive as I've seen it in the past, but here we are there. It looks like it might be coming back. So you could be in for some consolidation. So make sure you give it a little bit more wiggle room before you get into it, because when it does happen, it could surge. So that's one of the first ones I like. And the other one will obviously be the Kiwi franc. And it's for obvious reasons, same idea, just a different direction. But this one rarely gets to that 50 point. And I don't know if it's so much the consistency of the franc as it is the continuation of the weakness of the Kiwi. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just a chart trader. Interesting that it came all the way back up here and it's starting to fail. So this might be one that is going to be a slow bleeder. You might, if you want to play this a little bit longer term when it comes to targeting, just be aware that you might have to absorb moves like this. See these sideways, slightly ups. So if you get a little bit more wiggle room, then you can actually start to target a little bit lower. Then you can start to target, maybe down in this area. So you got to be patient with it, give it a little bit more room. But it's just kind of the belief in the continuation of other currencies outside of the dollar or things that are in the news, where I would look to actually make a couple of trades. So to summarize, the U.S. dollar moves higher after Fed comments. Crypto moves lower. I'm seeing kind of more of a flight back into the dollar and outside of cryptos, but I'm not seeing the yen participate or anything like that. It's pretty much just the dollar getting stronger and the risk on stuff getting weaker. So we'll see where that goes. Oil and gold, they do stay flat. It's slightly higher, both of them. Gold's been on a tear. There's been a slow move into some safety over a little while. I think that might be part of the reason why the cryptos have been weak for a little bit. My opinion. We'll see where that goes. So just make sure you play relative strength and weakness. And folks, if you don't like the trade, don't take it. Thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.